Hey guys, welcome back to my channel where I share recipes, meal prep, and dinner inspiration. Today I'll be sharing this beef stroganoff inspired stew with homemade egg noodles, so let's jump right in. Stews and soups are great ways to get some veggies into the kids. For this, I'm using celery, carrots, onions, mushrooms, and garlic. As always, a full list of ingredients and measurements can be found in the description box below. I typically use sweet onions for this recipe, but I'm trying to use up what I have, so I'm throwing in a purple onion as well. I like to use sliced onions for this as opposed to diced. If you have picky eaters, you may want to dice them up. My daughter will just have to pick out the onions tonight. Once I've got the onions, carrots, and celery all cut up, I'm going to start on those mushrooms. I know in the world of meal prep, preparing dump and go crockpot meals for the freezer is a popular option. However, I don't have a lot of freezer space. I find that I can just as easily prep crockpot meals up to 2 or 3 days in advance, storing everything in the fridge till I'm ready to dump into my crockpot. Don't forget the garlic like I almost did. After all the veggies are chopped up, it's time to prepare the beef. Chuck roast, rump roast, or bottom round are all good options here. I'm using a rump roast. Cut your beef into cubes or chunks, then lightly season. I'm using salt, pepper, and garlic. Dredge the beef in a little flour to coat. For this next step, you're going to need a hot pan. Brown the beef in small batches so you don't overcrowd the pan. You want to get some really good color here. Again, all this can be done 1 or 2 days before. I usually try to make my meal prep day a crockpot day, so all of this is going directly into the crockpot. Okay, it's time to crank up the crockpot now. Top the beef with those onions, carrots, celery, and garlic, and pour in your liquid. I'm using water and I'm going to throw in a couple of bouillon cubes. I'm starting with 5 cups here, but keep an eye on that water line. About an hour later, I added in a bit more. This is where I also threw in the rest of my spices as well. I used dried thyme, parsley, dill. Fresh herbs would be amazing if you have them. I also added in 4 tablespoons of Dijon and a couple splashes of Worcestershire. This can cook for 4 to 5 hours on high or 8 to 9 hours on low. I still have several more hours to go, but I'm going to go ahead and prepare the mushrooms. These are going to be stirred in at the very end. Again, we need a hot pan and some butter. Sauté the mushrooms until they're a nice golden brown. Depending on your pan size, I suggest doing these in small batches. I'm going to store these in the fridge till I need them later tonight. Now for the homemade egg noodles. You're going to need 1 cup of flour and 2 eggs. Season the flour with half a teaspoon of salt. I'm also adding in some garlic powder. Give that a quick whisk before emptying it onto the counter or cutting board. Make a well in the center of the flour for your eggs. This part is a bit time consuming. You want to whisk your eggs in the middle of the flour till it becomes too thick to continue to whisk. Disclaimer, I am no expert pasta maker, but I use this recipe for any soups or stews that require noodles. You can totally use store-bought noodles for this recipe, but these homemade noodles really take this stew to the next level. My hand always gets tired here, and you really need to resist the urge to get in there with your hands in an effort to speed things along. Just keep whisking with that fork until you can no longer whisk. Trust me, if you go in too soon with your hands, the dough will stiffen up and the texture you want just won't be there. Okay, so now it's time to gently work the dough with your hands till you've incorporated all or most of that flour. It's going to be sticky and shiny. Wrap the dough in plastic and let it chill in the fridge for at least an hour or overnight before rolling it out. Now it's time to start rolling. On a floured surface, roll your dough to your desired thickness, remembering they will puff up a bit when you add them to the stew. Using a pizza cutter, I'm slicing my noodles into little rectangle shapes. Like I said, I'm still working on mastering my pasta making skills, and I find this shape easier to work with and store, as I have quite a few hours before my stew is ready. I'm going to generously flour these and gently separate them. I'm storing them in an airtight container with plenty of surface area so they're not packed in on top of each other. These are going to hang out in the fridge with those mushrooms till later this evening. Okay, here we are, about 45 minutes till dinner. Time to finish off this stew. I'm making a cornstarch slurry with 2 tablespoons of cornstarch and some hot liquid from the Crockpot. Just mix that up until the cornstarch is dissolved, then pour back into the Crockpot. This recipe also calls for 1.5 cups of sour cream, but you can't just dump that in. Mix some of the hot liquid from the Crockpot with the sour cream. What you're doing here is slowly bringing up the temperature of that cold sour cream so it doesn't separate or curdle in the hot stew. Once that's all mixed together, add it to the stew and give it a stir. Now it's time to add those mushrooms and gently sprinkle in the noodles, trying to give them a little room from one another so they don't clump together. Give them a gentle stir and then set the Crock-Pot to low till you're ready for dinner. Those noodles only need about 20 to 30 minutes from the time you add them. There you have it, my family's favorite beef stew recipe. Have you tried it? Did you make any changes? Let me know in the comments below. Well, that's all I have for y'all today. If you enjoyed this video, it would mean so much to me if you would tap on that subscribe button. It would really help to grow the channel and you'll be notified each time I upload new recipes, meal prep, and dinner inspiration. Till next time.